Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well out there. Welcome to the Overflow podcast, episode 65 today.
All right.
Yes, my name is Andy Ferguson. Sitting next to me is Pastor Jeff Waterman.
Well, good morning, Andy.
Hey
How
there.
are you today?
Hi. Pretty good.
Yeah, how was your Mother's Day?
Thanks for asking. It was a good Mother's Day this year. Got to enjoy some nice family time. Made some lunch and some dinner and all that with the family.
good.
Just had a nice day. How was yours?
It was good. It was. I was glad it was over.
Oh yeah,
a lot of work. But it was good.
a lot of work to prepare and execute our Mother's Day sermon and the chocolate buffet that was after. What a great time.
Yeah, we're glad everything worked out well. But by the time Kathy and I get home, we're like,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And your mother and your father came in from out of town as well.
Yeah, and then we had everybody at the house Sunday afternoon. So we were a little plum tuckered yesterday, as they say down in the South, plum tuckered.
Right. Is that so? George and Jen, have they picked up some Texan accents or any Texan phrases?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because they lived in Texas a long time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, before this. So yeah, they've
Cool.
been down there. They're kind of back home. Yeah. So.
Oh, they're already what? Oh,
no,
wait.
Texas is
Yes.
kind of home for them.
I gotcha. Right. They're going to be here for another week or so. So, hey, everybody, we're happy to be in front of you as we're talking and overflowing from our previous Sunday sermon, Rooted in Glory, as we've been continuing our Rooted and Ready sermon series. We just started that one a couple weeks back, and we are on a journey through 1 Peter currently.
A really crazy journey through First Peter, though. We're kind of jumping all over. It wasn't planned that way, but you know the way life works. Now we're kind of jumping all over.
Just like the Israelites in the wilderness, we're doing some spirals through all of 1 Peter.
We went from 1 to 4. We're going back to 2. Then we're gonna. It's
5,
gonna be crazy.
Exactly.
But we'll get there.
Yeah, we will. We will. You know, and we were kind of chatting a little bit about that before starting this episode. And basically, hey, 1 Peter's only 5 chapters, so just read it every day. It'll take you 15 to 20 minutes, all 5 chapters. It's a letter, right? So just read the letter, 5 chapters, and then it won't seem like we're jumping so crazily for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we don't write letters like this anymore this long. Right. Like you've got to write like 4 of them in little spots, short ones, because people won't read the whole thing.
Right, exactly.
Pretend this is an email from Peter.
I like that. That's good. Yeah. And so, we are suffering for righteousness. Nope, I'm sorry. Yeah. Nope, I'm a little bit behind. I got a little distracted. So we're stewards of God's grace in today's section, as well as suffering as a Christian, right? So you gave us...
Or I put it, being rooted in glory.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
You go to suffering, I go to glory.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about how those connect together in today's episode. So, yeah, during this Sunday's sermon, you gave us 4 reminders that help us live a life that is rooted in glory. And the first one you mentioned, and we are, by the way, in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 1 through 19. The first one was living in light of the cross.
Yeah, you know, Peter's writing to a group of people that their life is probably not quite as easy as we have it here in the U.S.
Right.
You know, they're getting, there's persecution happening. They're getting left out of daily food, distributions and all those kinds of things. And so these folks are having it tough. And so he just reminds them that, when we are, to live in light of the cross means that we understand, and he says, arm your mind with this, right? It's like enter into this idea that Jesus comes for the purpose of the cross. Like his whole life was for that moment.
Yeah.
And so that was a pretty suffering moment. And when you then align yourself with God, the good thing you get is the promise of salvation. The good thing you do get is the hope, not the pie in the sky hope, but the firm confidence of the reward of the end, which is another thing we talk about. But to get there, it's not gonna be easy. Once you get that, once you align yourself with that, you put yourself at odds with the world around you, with this culture that is serving the things of man, not the things of God. And the world tends to, once it finds an adversary, it tends to attack it.
For sure. Yeah. And Christ himself was called the suffering servant,
Right.
right? And in regards to being attacked from culture or from the adversary, in other words, as you're doing these things, I always love this, the basketball analogy of the person who is taking it to the net, right? They're going to be double or triple teamed. They're going to be defended against.
Right.
And the people that are sitting on the sidelines not doing anything, nobody's defending them.
Right. It's kind of funny because as we're recording this, the Pistons are in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah?
And their superstar, if you will, is a guy named Cade Cunningham. And I was watching the fourth game of the Cleveland Cavaliers series. It's the second series in the playoffs. And Cade Cunningham is leading all scorers, all NBA scorers for the playoffs.
Okay.
And now last night when we were watching the game, when he would come down the court,
Yeah.
to your point, he was double teamed.
Right.
They were making his life miserable.
Absolutely.
And it threw him off his game a little bit. He didn't have a great scoring game, and I am sure he was getting frustrated. The other night, my mom and dad are from San Antonio. We were watching the Spurs game because
Right.
they're a big Spurs fan. And Victor Wembanyama, their big star, he got so frustrated. He actually got ejected because he was getting double teamed. They're going for the ball. He elbowed the guy in the face, right? So you're right. To your point, if you're the one that's scoring the points, if you're the one that is out there doing the thing, guess what? The opponent, the opposition is going to attack you.
Absolutely. So arm yourselves, right? And this is like battle because, hey, yeah, they're on the basketball court. They're waging some form of battle out there, and they don't go in there willy-nilly without practicing, without preparation, without arming themselves beforehand with tactics and plans and plays and so on. And the same way, it says just the same way that Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves with the same way of thinking that he did. And it says, for whoever has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. What a troublesome verse that is, as to live the rest of the time in the flesh, no longer for your human passions, but for the will of God.
See, I actually like the way the NIV translates that portion better. I think it grabs the idea better. And it says, for whomever suffered in the body is done with sin.
I like
and it's
that.
almost the idea, the concept here is, when Peter talks in Acts chapter 2, when he's asked, what shall we do to be saved? He says, repent, right? So you make this decision. I am changing my allegiance from the things of man. Jesus said you can't serve the things of man and the things of God, right?
Right.
I am no longer serving the things of man. I'm done with that. I am now serving the things of God. And so now it's this idea that I don't want and need to live that way in the debauchery and in the drinking parties and all of the things he goes on to say. He's like, no, I realize that doesn't bring life that Jesus came to bring. It actually brings death and destruction and chaos. So I'm done with that. I just love that phraseology.
Absolutely. He even says, you've had enough of that time, actually. He says, for the time that is past, the time of your past, rather, suffices for doing what the Gentiles do. You've already had enough of that. Now it's time to move on to maturity, as we kind of talked about last week.
Yeah, I'm done with sin. I'm done doing that. Now, it doesn't mean we stop sinning.
It'd be nice.
But there's still that battle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's some people will say, well, see, Peter says you can stop sinning. Well, I don't know that that's what he's saying. I'm not saying, I don't think he's saying you will never sin again. You're just done living for that. And now when something comes up, now you have this sense, or you have this conviction from Holy Spirit that says, hey, wait a minute, that's an area that God is revealing to me that I haven't submitted yet. Otherwise, Paul couldn't write in Romans 7, that which I want to do, I don't do. That which I don't want to do, I keep doing. I mean,
right. Absolutely. And in 1 John, he also says, if anyone says that he is not a sinner, he's a liar.
Right.
Right. And so we are to live then our lives in the light, in the thought process, the mindset of the cross, as Jesus says in Matthew 16:24, deny yourself. So deny yourself from those passions, the things that you want to do, the things that the Gentiles do. Pick up your cross daily and follow me. Do what I do. Follow me.
Have the same mindset. I'm at opposition, but I'm living on Jesus was living out a different storyline than what anybody ever thought, right?
Right.
He knew, we're told that he had to be crucified since before the foundations of the world. This is something that he and the Father knew was going to happen. And so he came for the sole purpose of doing what he had to do to serve the Father, and that included the cross. Now we live our lives in that, knowing that sin no longer has power. We can say, you know what? I don't live for that anymore. And when sin does come into my life, when it is revealed to me, it doesn't destroy me. That's lost all its power. I can move through it in victory and say, no, I'm done with that. And I can seek forgiveness and extend forgiveness because sin no longer has power.
Absolutely. And how can, while being in relationship with God, how can that give you power over sin?
Well, first of all, he tells us that no temptation has overtaken you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except that which is common to man. So it gives us, but God provides a way out. At some point, we look at things, and I do this often, more often than I want. Like there'll be things where I'm like, I don't want to do this, or there's things that I do, and I'm like, oh, I know better. So it really, power of sin over it says we have the choice to actually say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not having sin not having power over us, or us having power over sin, when someone hurts me,
Mm-hmm.
when someone offends me, when someone, as we're told in Matthew 18, someone sins against you,
Right.
that sin no longer gets to rule the day.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't keep the fracture happen. That doesn't keep the fracture there. What we can say is, when someone offends me, sins against me, and they come and they say, wow, that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can then have the ability to forgive because I have been forgiven. That sin doesn't rule the day. Grace and mercy rules the day. That's how marriages stay together.
Yep.
If two married people, if they never forgive each other for the wrong that's happened, because trust me, Kathy and I, we have done things that hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
I have the choice. Either the sin gets the power, or the grace of the Lord, the cross gets the power. Which gets the power?
Yeah.
If sin gets the power, we never make up. We never extend forgiveness. We hold on to the resentment and all of that. If the cross has the power, and we allow that to have the power, then we extend forgiveness, and it's gone. It's wiped clean.
I love that. So there's a form of humility that has to take place instead of pride, instead of selfishness or self-centeredness. You could then be loving one another in selflessness, as a servant would, or as a form of suffering that happens there. And in fact, you're embracing God's will no matter the cost. Right. You're saying, God, I know this is what you would want for this relationship. You're a God of reconciliation and of unity and of love above all things. So I may have been offended, but I will humble myself, and in fact, I value the relationship more than my feelings, perhaps.
Well, and if you think about it, if there's a broken relationship in your life with someone that's close to you, or even someone that's distant, like a neighbor or whatever, think about what that broken relationship does to the way you experience life. Now that person comes, I don't know, maybe it's your neighbor and they're doing a thing in their yard, you're doing a thing in your yard, and then all of a sudden you're like trying to you don't want to interact with each other because you're mad at each other. There's this tension in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's not life abundant.
Right.
That's life limited. Where then you think about the other people in your life that you have good relationship with, and then you can walk up to them and you talk to them, you're joking, it's fun, there's life-giving. What happens when we allow sin to rule the day is it actually steals life from us.
Mm-hmm.
And what we got when living in light of the cross, I think this is it was a big switch for me that went off. Get out of the mindset that God wants to hold you back or keep something from you. That's the original sin temptation in the garden, right?
Right.
God's holding back from you if you eat this. He knows you'll have a better life, right? And that didn't work out so well for Eve. But we have that mindset that, I've even talked to people, I'll become a Christian when I'm done having fun.
Right. I've heard that too, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
And I want to say, you don't understand that what you're doing is stealing life from you.
Yep.
We have this mindset that God is trying to steal life, and he's trying to tell us, no, I want to give you the best life possible. I want you to experience life overflowing.
Yeah.
Here's how to do it.
Yep. And you know what's not a lot of fun? shame and regret, honestly, to live and try to like hide lies or be deceiving or whatever the case is. That's not a lot of fun.
No.
And what truly I've found the main source of joy is God, right? He's God. He's the one of joy. And so if you're going to be in right relationship with him, you're going to have more joy in your life. You're going to be having more fun in your life because you're going to feel more free about your life. You're not going to have all these cloudy, terrible, negative thoughts going on. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I know I feel bad about that.
Right.
When you're feeling bad, you're not having fun.
No.
Right.
Right. And what you just talked about was the fruit of the Spirit, the outcome of the Spirit, right? That's
Exactly.
what fruit of the Spirit is. It's like, what are the results? How do you know that your life is being directed by the Spirit? Well, you begin to experience love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness
Yeah.
and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. You experience all these things. If you're not experiencing that, then there's probably a part of your life that you're not living
Yep.
in the Spirit.
That's so true. And so the thing is, I find to be interesting, as Peter here says as well, the culture doesn't, it's so alien to them and it seems so strange to them. Like, for example, if you do get an argument with your neighbor, for example, and they're like, oh, well, you should have told him this or you should have said this. And you're like, actually, I didn't. I chose a peaceable approach and I chose to forgive him over here. And they're like, oh, that was really weird. But what we're doing is we're letting our light shine before others. So then God gets the glory. He's like, well, why aren't you acting the way that I would act? Why aren't you seeking your own vengeance over the situation? Well, you don't have to say it this way, but basically what you're doing is you're suffering the same way that Jesus suffered all the way to the cross. Crucifixion is the highest cost that one could pay for a righteous living, but you're allowing God's Spirit to live and work through you, and that's giving God glory. Then as others see what's happening, you're letting your light shine.
Yeah, when you think about the word glory, right? I think we talked a little bit about this on Sunday. It's that who gets and who takes the credit,
Right. Yep.
right? We talked about glory, light shining around or God's glory showing, and then, people keeling over dead and all that stuff. There's some great power and there's some great authority there. And when we live in light of that glory, then we point everything there. When somebody, an athlete will do this all the time when they've had a great game and then they get on
Yeah.
and go, I want to give all glory and honor to Jesus Christ or whatever. And that sounds a little to the world, that sounds like, rah, 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 rah. But what that athlete's trying to do, hopefully, if their motives are pure, I don't know them all, but I've met some of them, and what they're trying to do is articulate that God is the one that fashioned me with these skills, and that my life, I'm supposed to live in light of the cross, what he's done. I have a relationship with him, and now I need to acknowledge that. I need to point people that way, not to me.
That's so good. So they're actually being good stewards of God's grace. And by God's grace, they were gifted many different talents and abilities, which is what the title of this chapter is, Stewards of God's Grace.
Well, and like for you, you're fabulously talented musician.
Thanks.
And if you don't know that, you should come and see it. But, and so you could say, yeah, look at me.
Right.
Look at me. Look how great I can play the guitar. Look how great I can sing, and I can do all these things. And that gets you so far, as you learn.
Yep.
But when we say, yes, God is the one that's equipped me this way. God's the one that made me this way.
Yeah.
And someone says, wow, that was so great what you did on Sunday. You can say, well, thank you very much. And you know what? I just thank God for the ability to be able to do that.
That's
now
right.
Now you're giving him the glory.
That's right. And I did used to live that way where I was like, oh, yeah, look at me. But the time has passed that suffices for doing what the Gentiles wanted to do.
You're done with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that happened after, the Spirit of God totally changed my mind. He gave me the renewal of my mind on that whole operation right there.
So you armed your mind.
Yeah, how about that?
With the cross.
Yeah, actually,
with
there you
mind
go.
Full of Christ.
That's right. So we're going to go back real quick to, you were talking about glory and how we can show that God in heaven is glorified and not what we've done. John 15:8, Jesus says this. He goes, by this my Father is glorified. So, okay, your ears prick up. What is he about to say right now? How is my Father glorified in heaven? It's that you bear much fruit, and in doing so, you prove that you are my disciples. And we were just saying earlier, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, joy, peace, patience, kindness, self-control, all of the great, amazing fruit of the Spirit by showing and displaying those, like we're saying, let your light shine before others so they might see what you do and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. It's perfect. And then how do you bear fruit? Well, apart from me, you can do nothing. So you need to be abiding, abide to bear fruit, abide to have power over sin so that it ceases, hopefully, or at least you have, your chains breaking or the strongholds breaking. And yes, so whoever abides in me will bear much fruit.
Right. If you think about all the times fruit is talked about in the Bible, it's kind of a big deal. Jesus at the close of the Sermon on the Mountain in Matthew, 5, 6, 7, he says, you will know a tree by its fruit.
Yep.
Apart in John 15, apart from me, you can you can do nothing, but attached to me, I am the vine, you are the branches, you will bear much fruit.
Yeah.
Paul says, hey, the fruit of the Spirit is this. John then says, you bear much fruit. The idea here isn't, I think a lot of times we think about that as our works, like how many people we convert, like we can, like we're going to get commission or something, or how much money we give, or how many hours we serve, or maybe what we do in the world of charity. And honestly, I don't think that's what those are talking about. I think it's how are we bearing the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, in everywhere that we go. How are our relationships with our family and our friends and our neighbors and our coworkers? How are they loving and at peace? And Jesus says, as much as it's up to you, live at peace with everyone. So how do I, are they peaceful? Where they're not peaceful, what am I bringing to the table? Am I keeping accountable? And all of these things, it's bearing that fruit of the Spirit. Self-control is a huge one. I talk to a lot of people and they'll go, oh, last night I ate too much, drank too much, spent too much. And it's like, well, don't you have self-control?
Right.
Because if you don't have self-control, if you absolutely can't control yourself, then guess what? You're living outside of the Spirit.
Yep. You're not bearing that fruit.
It doesn't mean don't go out for a nice meal. Don't have a nice drink, or don't go buy this or that. It's just, wait a minute. I know how to live with self-control so that this thing doesn't rule my day.
Yeah.
I do. That's producing the fruit of the Spirit in your life.
That's good. There's a little bit of danger to what we just said, by the way, because now that people know they have some responsibility,
right?
This is how you bear
We all
fruit.
do.
Yeah, exactly.
We all do, right?
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
hard. It's like all of a sudden you blew that one. You go, oh, I blew that one. But here's where we go back to the power of sin. Because I blew it there, because I failed, doesn't mean I'm a failure.
Okay.
That failure is something I did. It's not who I am, because sin no longer has power over me.
Yep.
And so now I can turn and I can seek forgiveness from my Lord. And he says, of course, you've already been washed clean. And if I go to another Christian who has also experienced grace and forgiveness, I can seek forgiveness of them. And of course, it should be extended. Why? Because they've experienced grace.
Yep. I love that. So as we are the ones that are experiencing grace and also sharing and giving grace to others, we're kind of carrying the banner of the Lord where we go, and that gives God the glory.
Right.
Yep. So we're stewards of his grace, how we treat others, how, as Peter says, love one another earnestly. Stop being selfish. Consider the others more highly than yourself. Right. That's a very difficult thing to do. There's a phrase or a quote, I'm going to quote you, Jeff, from this past Sunday. You said it, and I was like, wow, that's really quite good. And you said this, quote unquote, in light of eternity, ordinary acts of love become eternal investments.
Yeah.
I love that. That's living in light of the end. The end's going to be happening. I have an eternity mindset. Can you expound a little further on what you were saying with that quote? In light of eternity, ordinary acts of love become eternal investments.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you've ever had somebody do something for you, or that you're just around them and you're like, dang, I like being around them. They make me feel better.
Yeah.
There's just life.
Yeah.
And all of the fruit of the Spirit, you start going, man, it's just peaceful around them. And I don't feel pressure to do something that I don't want to do. That's self-control. And all of those things. All of a sudden, people begin to ask, well, why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people would actually see difference in us. This is one of the reasons why a lot of churches will go and do for outreach. I put outreach in quotes. For outreach, they'll do service projects. They'll go help at a soup kitchen, or they'll do a Christmas gift drive. We kind of do it here with Shop with the Cop. We give out stockings, right?
Yeah.
Christmas stockings with stuff in it. Why do we do that? Because we want to show those people that we love them. The hope is they get that and go, well, why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why? And then we can display the glory of God through them. We can point them to who really brings life. These small, and then inside of your family, the same thing, like in your family, is it filled with tension? Is it filled with arguing? Are you screaming at each other? Is everybody cutting each other down? Do we have sarcastic humor flying all over the place where it's just cut, cut, cut? Or are we making investments in people's lives by really helping them see who they are in light of the cross, who they are in light of Christ, rather than in light of the world? And then all of a sudden that begins to have eternal ramifications.
Yes.
Right? So that's kind of what I mean.
I like it. Was there anything in this past Sunday that I know we were trying to speed through? Well,
I didn't speed through really well.
No, but we were trying to make room for the chocolate buffet and all the great Mother's Day activities and festivities that we had planned. Was there anything that maybe you didn't quite get to, or that you wanted to spend a little more time in?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have to.
Well, here's an interesting thought, basically. And you can think of whatever at the same time, I suppose. But most of us as humans, we think of, or we consider glory to be something that's like brightness. And you asked us, Jeff, during the service, when you think of glory, what do you think of, right? And you physically displayed what a football player might do, like, yeah, look at me after I scored a touchdown, and I shouted out, well, sunrises. I think those are glorious, right? So we think of glory as like brightness or victory or success or power or fame. And what Peter is saying in this particular chapter is that glory is like revealed through sacrifice and pain and suffering and living as Christ lived, suffering in the flesh. Arm yourselves this way. And so it's interesting that glory is, like I said, revealed through suffering. It begins with like dying, in a sense. Deny yourself, die to yourself, and to live as Christ is gain. Glory is revealed through the love and the holiness that we display as we're good stewards of God's grace, showing hospitality to others, serving one another, stewarding the gifts that God gave us, praying. And then the fire that we go through reveals glory, because it says, you are blessed because of the Spirit of glory, and God rests upon you when you're going through these trials, and you're actually doing so in a glorious manner as God rests upon you to go through them in a patient way, or peace that is beyond natural understanding.
Yeah, as you're reading that and suffering's coming out a lot, I think sometimes, Peter uses a word here called a meddler.
Yeah.
Don't be suffering as a meddler. Like that's interesting, because he puts that like right after evildoer, thief, and murderer.
Right.
Like, so he equates meddling with murdering, stealing, and doing evil.
Yikes. Right, because you're supposed to be suffering for righteousness, for
Right.
Serving others, or for sharing the gospel, as the people of his day were being persecuted for.
Right.
So don't be caught suffering for things that you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
You deserve it.
Right. And I think a lot of us well, I haven't murdered anybody. I don't steal. I'm trying not to do evil. But I just find this meddler thing, like, are you sticking your nose in places where you're not welcome? Or, when people, I was reading some commentaries on this, and they said a spiritual busybody.
Okay.
You think about a busybody, like if you have that person I know you moved into a new condo place. There's going to be somebody in that condo place that has taken it upon themselves to make sure everybody follows the rules.
There's an HOA.
And there's someone on that HOA that's really, really fanatical about it, right? And they're sticking their nose in everything that's going on. Or that busybody, that person that's in the neighborhood or in the church that knows everybody's business, that's getting themselves in, and then they get mad because no one wants to be around them, right? Now they're suffering for meddling. They're suffering. Sometimes we think that suffering, if I suffer at all for anything, that I'm suffering for Jesus. And what Peter's saying is, no, that's not the case. There's sometimes you're actually suffering for stuff you shouldn't be doing. So if you find yourself suffering, if you find yourself feeling like, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat some worms kind of a thing, right? Step back for a minute and say, well, I wonder why. Why am I suffering? Am I suffering because I am living out love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I living this out because I'm really sticking my nose in everybody's business and telling everybody what to do, even though they don't want to hear from me?
Right. Yeah. And if it is for love, joy, peace, and all those things that you're suffering, it says, don't be surprised. Right.
Well, don't be surprised you're going to suffer. Don't be surprised you're going to suffer.
Right.
But when you do suffer, step back a minute and go, listen, if I got to suffer, I at least want to suffer for the right things.
Right. It's funny. He's like, it's not like something strange is happening to you. That's what it says. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Jesus said it too. Don't be surprised when they talk bad of you. They killed me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, guys, understand you are aligning yourself with the Lord.
Yeah.
And if we take the Bible seriously and we look at the whole, that's why you got to take the whole Bible. If you look at the whole thing, there is opposition. There is an oppositional force to God, and that is Satan, the great opposer, the great enemy, right? The deceiver. Mm-hmm. When you align yourself with God and you live in light of the cross, you've just made an enemy out of God's enemies.
Yep.
And they're going to attack.
Absolutely. In fact, you said on Sunday that the gospel doesn't promise an easy life, but it does promise a faithful Savior.
Right.
That is the comfort right there that I'm going to take to the bank.
That's all. That's at the end of the day. That's all we have, right?
Yep.
That hey, I didn't promise to take you around the valley of the shadow of death. I said I'm going to walk with you through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not because I'm asking you to do something that I didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. I went through not just the valley of the shadow of death. I actually went through death. So I'm going to walk with you through it.
Yeah. Yep. And folks out there, there's plenty of incredible historical records and books about martyrs of the past and people who have truly suffered for righteousness' sake and for sharing the gospel, etc., as we live a very comfortable lives in 2026.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
So, hopefully, though, as you are suffering while suffering according to God's will, you entrust your souls to a faithful Creator while doing good. And we're going to be looking at this upcoming weekend, ready for action, as we've just rooted ourselves in holiness and in the gospel and in glory. Now we're going to be ready for action as we look into 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 11 through 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 22. So it's kind of a larger portion right there. Yeah, long chunk right there. Anything you want to share about what's upcoming?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of everyday relationships, everyday activities, how we function in and out every day. And I think it goes to this idea that are we living life in light of the cross and in light of the end in everything that we do, not just the special things on Sunday.
Love it. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys at 10 o'clock in the morning this coming Sunday at the Well Church at 5202 East Highland Road in Howell. And we're going to be there. It's the Little Red Schoolhouse throughout the rest of the week, but it's our church service on Sunday morning. It's going to be a great time as we worship God and we give him glory. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.